right, friends, we are starting this podcast with the one and only Miss Shivani. Miss Shivani Shah.
Shivani Shah, everybody.
Yes. So Shivani is an amazing attorney. She's an amazing friend, but she's also a very, very competent attorney. Real estate attorney. Yeah.
Yeah, and very competent. The most thorough, diligent.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, unbelievable. Thank you.
Yeah. So she's with us here for this segment of the podcast where we are going to be talking about first-time home buyers and their process of buying their first home, the tips and tricks and, the pitfalls along with the process. So before we get started with Shivani's input, let's just have a quick review. And we have another podcast about the actual process for first-time home buyers. But for now, let's just do a quick summary about the first-time home buyer process. So I'm just going to summarize them. You do a pre-approval, you start your search, you get a property identified, you put an offer on it, you get your offer accepted, you have an inspection, you put the purchase and sale agreement together, and you pick an attorney, obviously, before then. And then all of the rest is mostly in the background where the lender is going to work on getting all your loan approved. The attorney will work on the title, and eventually you get to a commitment date where you have a commitment letter. Your loan is good to go, and you get to close. So that's in a nutshell when everything is like great, there's no problem. So now here's the thing with real estate is there's always something, right? There's always something going sideways. And the goal with this episode in this podcast is to kind of like have a short list or even a longer list of tips and tricks to do along the way for every single stage of the process that especially first-time home buyers should be aware of as they're embarking in this journey of buying their first home. So first step, we said, is the pre-approval. And I want to just say this, and maybe you can both of you chime in.
This is all a surprise to me. I didn't realize this is what the podcast was about. This is great to know.
I didn't know we were talking about approval.
Tips and tricks. Okay, let's do it at every stage.
It's like how much trust I have in you is I know I'm just going to sit you there and I'm going to start you with something and I know you have tons of things.
I'm just glad you're carrying the show.
You're amazing too. All right. So before you actually get pre-approved, once you have in your head this idea of buying your first home, it's really important to sit with yourself and understand your why. Why are you buying this first home? Why are you buying a home? And it's really important to stay connected with your big why as you're moving through the process because it's not going to be easy. It's very tiring. We have an actual term for it. It's called buyer's fatigue. So if you're not connected throughout the process with your why, if you don't have this why identified, it gets really tricky. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of, confusion in the process because you don't have this clear vision, because you don't have your head set on why you're actually buying a home. So there are plenty of whys, right? One is this is the American dream. You want to have your home. You want to own a home.
I need a place to live.
Yeah.
I got to go somewhere.
Right? And some people think about it as an investment. And it doesn't have to be just one why, but at least identify why you're doing this. So some people think about it as an investment. They don't want to put their money in the rent anymore and they want to buy a house. This is important to know ahead of time because many times it actually makes more sense to rent. And we're going to talk about the financial part of it in another podcast, but keep that in mind. Some other ways you can think about family, they're expanding.
So just having different needs, like you said, for a family or for pets. So many people have pets these days. It's, extra money if the landlord does accept a pet. Sometimes they don't. You can have that yard for your pets, for the kids, a swing set.
Yeah, when they're expecting a baby. And then they're like, 2-bedroom apartment is not enough. The parents are coming over. The parents are getting older. The school system is really also a motivation for people to buy a home is they want to be, so usually they have kids and they want to be in a certain school district. Whatever it is, pick your why and or at least sit with yourself and try to identify why are you buying a home. And that will carry you through the process. For example, if your why...
This is so the Zen
twist.
Have you ever heard an agent telling you to sit with your why?
Meditate for 15 minutes. Define your why.
It's
No, but truly, if your why is because you want to be closer to work, because you don't want to do that commute, then it's easy to get caught up in seeing houses and going farther than you want to be, and then figuring out after seeing a bunch of houses that that's actually not where you want to be. So it's going to save you a lot of effort and time and energy to kind of like, know why. And it can change. You don't have to stick with it, but you always have to have it in your mind. So know your why first. Second step is the pre-approval.
You can lean on your trusted realtor or attorney for a recommendation on a lender, get feedback on where the rates should be. Certainly the realtors know what a good rate is. We follow and know. And I think that this is kind of a little tangent, but as far as, things like an ARM, we had somebody recently do a 7.3
What's an ARM?
So it's an adjustable rate mortgage, which typically or different times in history, it was something that was viewed as a very risky play to have. So basically the 7.3 ARM, or some of the popular ones are 5 years. You're locked for that period of time, and then it increases. So 7.3 is locked for 7 years. Every 3 years it goes up a point maximum. But I think it's been in the past something that could be very risky. Now, if we're in agreement that the rates should come down, and they started to come down, makes it a little less risky. I guess the more they come down, but when the rates were up towards 8% or 7+%, it just seemed less risky to do a 7-year lock, because you have 7 years to refinance that.
Right.
The lenders typically want you to have a loan for at least 6 months, or else they get their commission withdrawn. So anytime after 6 months, and a lot of lenders will give you an incentive to refinance, so you don't pay as much. It's not like the closing costs for when you purchase a home, but a lot of times you can get an incentive and refinance. Right. But yeah, as far as the approval,
I think, one thing is you can trust the professionals you're working with for a recommendation. I also think personal recommendations are huge. Yeah. I like when my clients work with lenders that they're not just kind of searching, Googling and trying to find out, that communicate with them, that somebody they know has worked with them and has had good experiences. It's huge because, like I said, not all lenders deliver. So working with somebody and then getting that pre-approval in place, and the communication that happens with your lender during that time is important, because sometimes you need an updated pre-approval if you're putting an offer in. So you want to establish that relationship early on. And yes, you can shop and choose a different lender in the end. But again, working with a lender that has been personally recommended to you either by your trusted professionals or somebody in your personal life, family, friends, I think is always helpful, because I have clients who will just search lowest rate. They'll work with some internet bank or some bank that's in the middle of the country. That's not
That's
amazing.
What I was going to say. One thing, too, is that especially in this market where it's kind of frowned upon to use a Bank of America or a large bank, because people have had horror stories with the communication and not closing in time. So it actually, I've had people come with not to single out some of the larger banks, but like with a Rocket Mortgage pre-approval, or especially Bank of America. I've had agents that, if they had a handful of offers, they just won't take one of the larger banks because of some past experiences. So we do usually recommend, Bank of America, to use a local trusted lender who's very accessible and trustworthy to close on time, because it is tough to communicate with the big banks.
Yeah, there is another point also about using a local bank, is when you have condos, for example.
Right.
And then you have a situation where, in general, like a Fannie Mae recommendation would be a 5% for like some insurance thing, which we can talk about in another podcast. But there are some requirements that are stricter on the national level. Some banks that are national or too big or like not local, they will not approve you for that specific type of condo. But local bank who know the value, who understand the market, will definitely approve you, even if those national criteria are not met. So that's another reason why you should definitely think about picking someone who's local, who understand the market, or at least is kind of familiar with the markets and with the values. especially when you go with condos.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of issues where Massachusetts is very, condominiums are set up very differently than the rest of the country. And so lots of lenders just don't understand it. I had somebody reach out yesterday. The lender said, well, is this a townhouse or a condominium? And I said, well, a townhouse is a condominium. And they're like, that's not true. It's a different type of condominium. Like, not in Massachusetts. It's just a style of condominium. Trying to explain to this lender. And they said, well, they have a special rate because it has to be a townhouse and not a condominium. And I'm like, well, we're going to be working with a different lender. Right. So, because it's just like, you don't understand these basic concepts in Massachusetts. And it's fine. It's just that it's different. But don't take a deal in Massachusetts if you don't understand. And lenders are going to take whatever deal that they can get, right? Regardless if they know about it or not.
Yeah, they have like the salespeople, and then they have the actual underwriter, or like the actual team who's going to gather the documents, etc. And they're different people, and communication get messed up. Another question we had very often is it like going with the lowest rate the best thing to do?
Right.
Yeah.
No, not always. I mean, obviously you want to have the best terms possible, but you also need to close. So you want to work with a lender who's actually going to close so you can get that rate, right? So it's not always the case to pick the lowest rate. Again, the responsiveness, the communication, the availability of your lender is huge. So I've seen people offer a low rate up front, and then once the file's reviewed, oh, by the way, the rate is actually going to be half a point higher or a point higher. So I've seen that kind of bait and switch happen as well. Yeah.
Yeah, in certain programs you can put down, PMI typically you're going to have to, if you don't have 20% to put down, you're going to have to pay PMI. But some lenders will have a program where with 10% down, they'll bake in the PMI to the rate, so you got to factor, what would it be if you paid the PMI separately, and a couple of different factors to look at. But if you have a trusted lender that gives good rates and can perform,
right? Yeah.
Then again, either your professionals recommend, or your family members, or somebody who's worked with them, and hopefully it's something if the rates keep coming down.
There's this other part to it, which is when it gets competitive. And we've seen this a lot on our side, on the listing side, is we would get calls from lenders vouching for their clients. And that makes us feel as listing agent very comfortable working with that buyer, because we had their lender reach out to us proactively, being like, this person is very qualified. They have this, they have that, especially if they're waiving their appraisal, or they have really strong terms. We want that kind of confidence, and having a lender who's like proactive and will reach out to the listing agent and be like, okay, these are like the client, they're good, they're pre-approved already, you've been working with them for like whatever. So that's really important too, which a lot of these big banks or mortgage broker that you will get online will not do.
Yeah,
so
they can paint the picture as well. They give you all the details. The people know, again, in this market and what they're paying for a house, they know what kind of information we're looking for a little bit better.
And there's a bunch of mortgage brokers really that we've worked with. So there's a lot of mortgage brokers out there that are local. So there is a really they have really great rates. So local banks, great rates, mortgage brokers. There's no need to really shop online for something. It's a way better bet to just ask around and get a few names.
Plus if you put your info online, you're gonna get.
Oh yeah, and then you get like bombarded with calls.
Up.
Yeah.
Heard you want a mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
you get enough spam calls already without Lending Tree.
You know.
Lending Tree. I remember years back.
Oh
yeah. Info on Lending Tree, and I think that was before it was so easy to text people too. It was probably mostly phone calls, but.
Big mistake.
Yeah. 4 weeks. Takes a while too. And then I'm such an idiot. I just did it again with the auto Carfax. I was looking for the right price. They said, "Oh, you're looking to sell your car?" So I had the blue book, and then I put in. Sorry, this is not real estate, but
this will be cut.
I got it. Unless we can get to a car audience.
Yeah. So pre-approval. That's the pre-approval. Those are the tips and tricks to have a smooth pre-approval and smooth transaction on this step. Next, we have the search. So I mean, I don't know as an attorney if you're involved too much in the search.
I'm typically not contacted until somebody has an accepted offer.
Right.
Or sometimes once they've submitted an offer, they might reach out and say, we're waiting to see if it's accepted. But otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm not typically involved in the search period. That's
I like to recommend, I don't know how you feel about this, but I like to recommend to our clients to have an attorney identified before they actually put an offer. And the reason is sometimes we end up with offers where we have to have special terms or where the situation is kind of complicated, where there is, I don't think that it's so much for the first time home buyers, but there's a buy and a sell. Or like these people are going to sell their house and buy their house, and their offer is contingent on selling their house and successful closing on
and so
their
you
house.
want an attorney to review the language many times beforehand. Yeah, which happens. And in those cases it happens. And typically that's with existing clients because very rarely do people reach out before. So, but I do have people who reach out and they say, hey, we're looking. We're in the course of a search. We wanted to identify. But I can't typically commit until I know the lender, but also the dates that are in the offer, the specific dates. So I will provide preliminary info, and I'm happy to review language, even if I'm not the attorney in the end, depending on what stage they're at. But
there are other cases where also an attorney is important ahead of time is when you deal with estate probate.
Yeah.
So when you have probate cases, and then before putting an offer to understand like how far along in the process. So usually a real estate agent will have like some sort of understanding, but it's better to have an attorney who can actually look at the case, see where it is, understand the process. And
like they're this close to a license to sell, or we'll see you in a year because this isn't going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. That will save you a lot of time to kind of have this information ahead of time.
Yeah.
If you have any like lawsuit going on, if it's an auction, sometimes you do want to have, if it's an auction and the property is occupied, you really do want to have an attorney who's like going to be on top of that. And,
I'm not the attorney for you.
And first time home buyer, we're not buying an
auction. That's the other thing. Like first time home buyers, that is really true. So, so we're in the search stage right now for this section of the podcast for first-time home buyers. So first-time home buyers, sometimes we have savvy first-time home buyers who are trying to make a deal, to get a good deal on something. Usually if it's too good.
I meant savvy at first.
It is savvy, right? Yeah. Savvy.
Savvy.
Oh,
then I thought you meant savvy, like I want to save you some
I
money.
thought the same thing.
Very savvy.
It's the accent. It's fine. Savvy.
Okay.
And they want to make a good deal though. And then they're trying. So if it's too good to be true, it's like it's too good to be true. If it's too low compared to other houses, there is some problem with it.
Yeah.
Well, one thing real quick, they used to, I think it's a little bit less now on Zillow, but when you had first-time buyers and they want to try and explore a foreclosure, like Zillow used to show pre-foreclosures just based upon, it was really clickbait to get people to agents and whatnot, but it would show pre-foreclosure just because of public records and people think they'd have an avenue to buy it, and it kind of would. I feel like I run into that less, but I used to have a lot of first-time home buyers who were like, can I see this foreclosure?
Right.
Oh, they're not even foreclosed yet.
Right. That's a really good point. Point.
Oh, thanks, Nutty. Once in a while I have a go.
It is a really good point because when usually people will start browsing on the internet and on Zillow, and then you can see a for sale by owner or like a pre-foreclosure or even a foreclosure and auction, all of these on Zillow, and it's important to have some sort of discernment in it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the for sale by owner after, but like the pre-foreclosure, it's important to understand that house is not through the foreclosing process, which is a whole other process, and then they're not available to be shown.
I think some pitfalls in that search period are not working with an agent.
Right.
I think that's detrimental to a buyer. I think people think, if I don't have an agent, maybe I can get a better price or I can get a better deal. But you lose a level of protection, you lose a level of access, and you likely lose a level of getting an offer accepted, to be honest. But for me, a broker, not just because I'm sitting with you guys, it provides a very valuable.
Thanks, buddy.
And the reason I say that too is people will go to open houses, and I do think, hey, go to see as many properties as possible during this search period, right? But you're going to sign up. The list agent's going to say, sign this sheet, and you sign up. And if it'll say, typically, are you working with an agent? And hopefully you are. But either way, you should say yes, because if you're not, many times that agent will potentially just try to take you as their own client, but it's not necessarily beneficial to a buyer. You want to come with an agent to help make this offer, if you are at that stage to make an offer, because they can get information, they can help you, protect you in crafting this offer. Lots of times, and I don't know if you guys, because you list properties, do you ever have to draft an offer on behalf of a buyer that you don't represent?
We do that, and you know what I was gonna say?
Yeah.
Is actually it doesn't look too good.
It's not a good look.
Doesn't look too good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually the people or the buyers who come through and they're like, oh, I don't have an agent. I want you to write the offer for me, and that's gonna make a better deal for the seller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like so it's gonna like save the seller like maybe what $10,000 or something.
Depending
like that,
on whatever, right?
Depending on the price point, but the truth is that kind of buyer will also chisel the seller down on every single thing, like after the inspection, after like every single appraisal and stuff. They usually end up being really tough buyers to work with.
Yeah.
And if we have a multiple offer situation and we have someone who's unrepresented and we have like someone represented, we really do not care about, like, we're not making any money in our pocket, so we personally do not care, but we will advise our sellers to take into account the fact that they are not represented, and that if anything, if their offer is too high and there's going to be an appraisal problem, if there's just like so these days we don't know if there's going to be an inspection or not. Probably they're going to inspect, but they're going to be like tough after the inspection, trying to like negotiate and stuff. We will advise our sellers on all of these terms. So it really is, at the end of the day, like not too good of a look. It doesn't save you too much.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't love it when if I'm representing a buyer, when they're working with the list agent because they went and had the offer done without having an agent. And it's because, I don't know, there's a level of like less of trust there in terms of, is this agent's not working on behalf of my buyer, clearly, because they represent the seller, right? And that's not to say, but it just leaves this level of like, okay, and why wasn't this? And many times certain terms that a buyer agent would put in for their client, maybe that list agent doesn't even consider doing, because they're not actually representing you. So like, okay, how much you want to pay? What are the dates? Instead of saying, well, this contingency is important, or you might want to consider this. You're not going to get that type of potentially advice from a list agent. So I think a big pitfall is not working with a buyer agent as a first-time buyer. And I know the rules have changed in terms of commissions, but still the seller is, for the most part, paying the buyer commission. It just needs to be written into the offer more specifically. Right. So it's nothing. The buyer has nothing to lose. They only have to gain by working with an agent in terms of protection and just working with somebody who's working in their best interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you agree or no? Do you agree with that?
Me? Oh, yeah, of course. I love being a buyer's agent. And I tell you, even before, so you're going to have an inspector or not, but I think I pride myself on, when I first got into the business, I had a couple of deal breakers. I felt so bad that, I didn't notice a cracked support beam or these huge things. Like,
right.
And it's funny, I finally got down in the house, I can look for these things.
Yeah.
And then one time the inspector showed up, and before we even got in the house, he said, these retaining walls are a disaster. I'm like, oh, shoot, the retaining walls. But now, after going through so many inspections for 10 plus years.
But it's not your role. Yeah, it's not your role anyway,
No,
but it's nice to have
that
you have that experience that you can call these things out.
Yeah, like we can give you a pretty good idea of what you're getting into. The inspectors can't put numbers on. We're probably not supposed to put numbers on it either, but you can say, hey, that roof's going to need to be done soon. That's 10 grand plus these days. Nothing's cheap as far as. So I feel like you do get more education on, and obviously if you inspect it, how to maintain the home. But an agent's usually pretty knowledgeable to tell you.
Yeah, and not all agents are created equal either, right? So you can Interview agents to see who you feel comfortable with,
Yeah,
or
it's either
again,
me or not.
referrals,
You can
recommendations.
interview
Yeah,
either of
they're
us.
not created equal. Just
And
really
pick
in
one
terms
or
of
the other, and we'll
in terms
help you
of
together.
in terms of competence, in terms of ethics. Those things are super important. So again, lots of times, personal referrals are great. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're listening or watching this podcast, there's no question
Oh, okay.
who the agents should be. So yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to be
But
funny.
yeah, so importance is what you said. Like the same way you shop around for a lender, you can't shop around for, and you should shop around for a buyer agents
Yeah.
or seller agent.
Yeah.
My mama told me.
And not just have a like default
Not just
to
the default
whoever.
or the first one you meet, or
Right.
you know, you click on Zillow to see a property and then you're gonna meet an agent. That agent is not the listing agent. It's, you know, Zillow sells your information to buyer agent, so that's a buyer agent that's gonna meet you there at the property. You do not have to go with that buyer agent. You don't have to go with the agent at the open house. Asking around is huge. Doing your research is huge. Googling the people, seeing like how many transactions they've done in the past, how long they've been in the real estate business for. Not that, you know, some people say, oh, I've been in the real estate business for like 30 years, but then they've done like 2 deals in like those 30 years. So the years.
I love it when I get that. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm like, you have?
Nobody's caught on yet? 30 years? Dang.
Sliding by, my friend. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
is what happens in so
Yeah.
many cases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing your research and then feeling comfortable being like, I'm sorry, I just don't feel comfortable working with you anymore. And then like, it's you know, it's a big purchase. It's the biggest purchase you probably do in a long time. So taking your time to actually pick a good agent is huge.
Yeah. So yeah, for the search stage,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is
Yeah.
work with an agent. Definitely go to open houses, look around, and maybe you're not ready yet to identify your agent, but like you want to also have somebody you're working with, because if you do find a property and you want to put an offer in, you typically have to move quickly, right?
And the real estate agents will know a mortgage broker, they'll know an attorney, they'll know all the people that you ever will need to make this happen. Yeah.
And then the search itself, just to talk about it, because it's kind of a mix of technologies these days. Like our MLS will send you listings.
Right.
The more you can fine tune with your agent what they're looking for, the more I can see something and send it to you and say, hey, this is going to be a fit. We work best with the clients who are kind of active and giving feedback on what they like, what they don't like, and aren't just covering a whole area and a whole, you know, we had one client recently. I was just thinking, I haven't heard from her, but it's like from southern New Hampshire down, and, you know, I need this, but it's, if you can really define where you're looking,
That's
what
why,
you're looking for.
it's important to know
and
why
what
your
price is.
The why.
The why.
Yeah, the why.
The why and the how much.
The why and the where.
Mm-hmm. The why and the how much will get you to
where.
To the where. Yeah.
Yeah, gotta get to that where.
Yeah.
Works a little easier.
Yes. So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll come back shortly.